Okay, so I'll show you a little bit of what I have so far on this now. It's not much further, but I've gotten several additional keyframes, and what I have now is looks up, and then I have surprise, and then what I really want to do now is I want them to come back down and land, probably around here, I guess. Let me go move this out a little longer. So if I watch this, let's see. Yeah, I think it needs to land probably around here, around frame 60. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to go in here and repose all of these things to bring it back to where it was. So what I'd like to do is just copy this keyframe. So I can copy cells from timeline or cut cells from timeline. And I'm fine doing that. I don't really want to cut them. So I can just do copy and then over here paste. So I can paste it in the same way, paste cells from timeline. And that's going to put me back to this pose that I had here. Now that's not the exact right pose, but it's closer to what I need, right? And so I'm going to move my character's body back over here so he lands a little bit more in this location, and I'm going to use my transform tool to pose this a little differently, just mixing it up just a touch. Now I want to show you a couple of things I did in the meantime. I'm going to move this eye down and maybe go ahead and do something a little bit more angry, right? Like to give him a reason to want to get out of there. So let's say that's the our new pose. I'll go ahead and hit F6. Again, I'm making sure that all of these are stop motion keys. So a couple of things you'll notice on my surprise takes is my character right here, if you notice, his eye gets a little bit bigger, and then I pushed the entire thing even a little bit larger. So literally I just went in here and held shift and scaled his eye up. And so these two poses aren't that much different, right? I have this pose and then he goes up a little higher, right? And what I want is that feeling of my character sort of drifting up into that pose but shaking the entire time. And so I'm going to put some stuff in between here to make that happen. I'm also going to do a little bit of an anticipation before this jump up, right? Just a little bit, say like right about here. I'm going to hit F6 and I'm going to go ahead and pose this character sort of anticipating down a little bit more for this jump up. And if we want to see what that's looking like, we can use the greater than less than keys to sort of step forward through this and just sort of see how that transition is going to look. Now, it automatically set me a motion key there, so I'm just going to highlight all of this and again just set that to stepped keys just for now. I'm going to go back to motion keys later, but right now this is just letting me sort of see this transition. And so I really want to make this more of a shocked pose. So I'm going to move my character's eye down, maybe rotate it back around this way a little bit more. And I'm going to close the lids, or at least mostly close the lids. So I get something like this. Oh, maybe I need to make those lids a little bit bigger. Drew them. That's looking alright. That's alright, I think. Okay. And so that did push my character down a little bit. And I want to just really push them into this. Maybe squash that neckline just a little bit and play around with these. Maybe I'll really bend these forward here. And again, F6, just want to make sure I've nailed that down. So let's see what that's looking like now. Yeah, it's looking pretty cool. So it's about this time that I'm starting to realize my original camera animation was just a test, right? Like it was just this slow push in. And I'm not sure that's actually the camera I need. Right? I'm pretty sure it's not the camera I need. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to actually move this keyframe out to around here. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my end keyframe, click it again, and drag it all the way back to the beginning of my animation. And so now my animation actually does the opposite. However, what I think I'm going to do is actually save more, like start my animation a little bit more, like I want to end it here, right? So I want to start my animation just zoomed in just a little bit. So maybe like right here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit F6. I'll select this keyframe and hit F7, and that's going to delete it. And then I can grab this keyframe and move it back to here. And so now my animation looks like this. So it's more of a pull back. Honestly, I think I could probably get away with just a little bit more. Maybe I'll start it a little bit more like there. F6, F7. Let's see what that's looking like. Now I may have to change. I feel like my claw is almost too big, or at least comes up too high here. So I may end up changing some of the scale of some of this stuff, or possibly even pushing it in a little closer in a minute. But I do like this framing a little bit better. So let's watch one more time. The last thing I'm kind of thinking here is, I think that some of this just needs more, like, I think all of it's happening a little too early. So if I grab all of this and hold off just a little bit, and then grab all of this and move it a little bit later. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's feeling a little bit better, I think. Maybe move this back a little bit. Oop. So that's what that looks like. If we watch that now. So, why I did this is you'll notice that the antenna were completely going out of frame earlier, and they're still going out of frame a little bit, so I'm not thrilled with that, but it's not terrible. I think I could probably push the anticipation down, or push the camera up just a little bit and remedy that. But I also wouldn't mind trying a couple of other camera animations, maybe a pan to the side instead of a zoom in or out. And then the other thing we can do is we can raise the camera. So by this pose right here, I could go into my perspective view and actually raise the camera up just a little bit to something like this. Have that extend out to the end of our animation, which is now a little closer to 80. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I'm kind of digging that. I may still play around with that a little bit more on the framing, but that's looking a little closer. And if you want to see why I'm doing that, I mean, I know you can see this box, but if we click this button here, it will black out or yellow out all of the region around it. And you're seeing we're getting some clipping. I'm also getting a little bit of a weird tangent here on this box. So I want to work with that. And honestly, I wouldn't mind having both Winslow and the banana nudged in a little bit more to the screen left. So they are sort of clearing up some of the view of the spaceship. So I'll probably work on some of that next. So I will say, if you're wanting to make those changes to Winslow, I am probably going to make those changes in the function editor. Now you may recall earlier that I was using the function editor a little differently. I had to set up some stuff differently. We're going to try something different on this. So let's see, path X, path Y, path Z. So I think path X is what we're looking for. And let's see if I move this up a little bit. Oh, let's move it down a little bit. I'm able to move Winslow a little bit more toward the center. And let's see if that's feeling a little better now. Yeah, okay. And I may change the banana a little bit too. But I'm liking that framing a little bit better, and I can always move the crate without even really having to set any keyframes. I mean, I got this first keyframe here, but I can just take the crate and nudge it this way a little bit more. And then the last thing, I may play around with the scale just a little bit on the arm, but I'm not for sure yet, so I'm not going to commit to that. So that's feeling better. Banana, go ahead and move it in just a little bit more. All right. So we will come back here in a second and move forward more with the animation.